Welcome back to Jawing About the G-Man. I am Joe McGuire along with Sean Scanlon. Not a good week for the Giants. Dak Prescott, 5 touchdowns. The Cowboys routed the Giants for a second time this year, 49-17, their 12th straight home win. Giants got crushed 40-0 in the season opener. That 72-point margin was the largest in a sweep of an NFC East opponent since they beat Philadelphia by 66 points in 1969. Meanwhile, the Giants outgained 368-27 with Tommy DeVito running the show. About what we expected.
Yeah, so that's not good, right?
No, terrible. Yeah. I mean, this Giants team is awful, Sean.
They're not good. It's not fun to watch. I said it last week, but there are just so many better games on. And but I'm a sicko. I'm a Giants fan, unfortunately, stuck with them for life. So it's another long season that you got to sit through. Really, at this point, you're just hoping for some of the young players to watch some progress from them. Some players on the defense like Deontay Banks, Kayvon, hoping that Dexter is still playing well. But yeah, I mean, this offense can't do anything. It's similar to what happened at the end of 2021. When Daniel Jones got hurt, when we were watching Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon, the end of the Joe Judge era, which just wasn't great. So, really just looking for development out of the young players. I really don't think there's a chance that we're going to win another game this year. I'd be shocked if we do, even with the schedule being pretty light. Giants fans just got to hang in there tough, try and hope for a number 1 or number 2 pick, which I think won't be hard to do. I think we have a good shot at the number 1 pick. I think that the Panthers have a better shot of winning games down the stretch than we do with the offense that we have in place right now.
Yeah, it would almost be unfortunate, I think, at this point, if the Giants ran into a win. But yeah, it's extremely difficult at this point. This offense is tough to watch. It's just not enjoyable. And you sort of feel bad for the defense. I mean, they're just always on the field. They're never in a good place. On the bright side, I mean, there has been, I think, some player development. I mean, I think Deontay Banks is fantastic. I think this is going to be a guy who's going to be a difference maker time. Thibodeau has really come on and hasn't quite lived up to what he's supposed to be, but we're starting to see more and more glimpses of it. But, going into this season, I think we felt like the Giants had sort of closed the gap a little bit. Talent-wise, not even close. Especially when you look at them compared to the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Yeah, they're in a complete other class. We probably took a step back from last season, honestly. I mean, at least the Cowboys games last year, we lost both, but they're at least competitive in both of those games. We had a lead late in the fourth quarter in that first game last year, and then Thanksgiving, we were in it up until the fourth quarter, and the Eagles blew us out. But it's not going to be pretty when we play the Eagles late in December too. Hopefully by week 18, the last game we play them, they're sitting everyone, which will still probably get blown out by 20 by their backups. But yeah, I mean, you said it. It's about these young guys, and it's not even just those high draft picks like Banks and Thibodeau. There's some other good young players that got drafted a little bit later that have been shown signs of promise. Guys like Micah McFadden, who's really stepped up this year. Inside line,
he's the MVP of this defense.
Yeah, him and Okereke are really
great. Yeah, he's been great all year. Even early in the year when Okereke wasn't doing jack, McFadden was making. I remember in the 49ers game, it was like, dude, how good is this guy? And how come he didn't get any kind of love? But he's been, I think, their most consistent player all year.
Definitely. And inside linebacker has been a question for this team for probably a decade now. And finally, I mean, we paid big money to bring Okereke in. He's been really solid. And then Micah McFadden, who we got in the 5th round, I believe, to find a guy like that in day 3, who I think could be a piece here for a long time, is definitely huge. And then you got other guys like Cordell Flott, who's been a little bit up and down, but for a 3rd-round pick, he can definitely be your slot corner for years to come. Jason Pinnock, who we claimed off waivers from the Jets. didn't even have to give up any compensation to get him. He's been really solid. I think that he could be a safety here for a long time, especially with I don't think Xavier McKinney's coming back after just some of the comments he's made this year about Wink Martindale, not, speaking to the media after games and his play. I mean, he's been fine, but it's nothing like he has been in the past couple of years. So I think Pinnock's another guy that you can keep. So that's all we have to sell ourselves on right now, really.
You know what kills me too? Like, and this has sort of been the way of the Giants. I think I told you this was like 2 years ago. I had, I'm a card collector. And so I went and I picked up Odell Beckham, just literally like days before the trade. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Xavier McKinney. No, McKinney wasn't there yet. Collins. What was the safety? Landon Collins. And I thought to myself, these guys are going to be here for a million years. These are the guys I want. These guys will join my football card collection. And I mean, within days of that card, I don't even know if the card showed up by the time Odell was out of town. Landon Collins gone. Daniel Jones will be gone soon. Saquon, I saw his comments this week. He's at a crossroads. Like, this has been a disappointing run as far as, the Giants have had some talented players and just haven't done anything and haven't really done right by the players. I think that's the other big thing.
No, I don't blame Saquon's comments at all. I mean, it's obviously, they gave him the franchise tag, but to give this guy so many carries every year, and especially when he's been battling injuries through all these years too, pretty much to have your offense rely on him completely, and then to lowball him once he gets to negotiations and pretty much just wait for him to get to the age of 27, 28 so he can get all the tread off the tires and then pretty much just kick him to the road, which I think is what's going to happen. It's unfair to Saquon because he said it since day one. He wants to be a New York Giant for life, and he wants to create a legacy here. And it's because of guys like, Barry Sanders, who he idolized, that he wants to be with that one team for the rest of his career, and they're not doing him any favors. His offensive line has been terrible the whole time. Daniel Jones has had obviously some good stretches, but he's definitely not the best quarterback in the league. And they never really have any great receivers to throw to, so they have to rely on this run game. So it's unfair to Saquon. They rely on him for 300 carries a year, and they can't even give him $12 million.
What would you say to those fans who, in response to what you just said, would be like, yeah, but the guy's always hurt?
There's a reason that he's always hurt.
Right.
And it's because this offensive line has been terrible for years. And every team that we go against, their defense knows that we're going to be running the ball 25 to 30 times a game. They can just load the box, put 8 guys in there because they know that we got guys like Tommy DeVito who have no shot of throwing the ball downfield. So it's been a disservice to him the whole time when Saquon's been nothing good but good to this team. So yeah, it sucks for Saquon. I hope he goes to another team and has success there because the Giants, the way this organization has been run, pretty much since Tom Coughlin left, we've been a dumpster fire. And it's unfair to him. And I think that he doesn't deserve that. And I think that he deserves to play for a contending team, which I hope he does because we don't deserve him here in New York right now.
Yeah, well, you're 100% right. In week 11, there's a lot of good games. We'll talk about those in a minute. Let's just get this nonsense out of the way now. The Giants go to Washington, having lost at home 14-7. Back when there were winnable games on this schedule and this team just found ways to not win games, I assume that will continue with Washington. I'm not a big Howell fan. You think he's the right guy. That said, and where the Giants are now, Washington's a 9.5-point favorite in this game. Again, it was a close game last time these two teams met. 9.5 fair, or do you see this being a blowout? It's like a 24-6 blowout.
I think 9.5 is fair. I would if I were to bet on the Giants for a spread in a game the rest of the year. This might be one of them. Depending on the lines coming up, but I don't know. We've owned Washington forever now, especially since Daniel Jones has been here. And obviously I know he's not playing, but just in that era. And the Washington defense isn't that great. I mean, they traded their best 2 pass rushers. So I don't think they're going to get a ton of pressure on Tommy DeVito. I don't think Tommy DeVito is going to do much with it because he's not an NFL quarterback, even though he's playing for the Giants right now. But I think 9.5 is definitely doable to cover for the Giants, because I think this defense, even though they've had a couple rough games, they're being asked to be on the field the whole time, so it's not really advantageous to them. But I think if you wanna make a little money this weekend, I might advise taking the Giants with that 9.5. I just hope this isn't a game where they stumble into a win, because, like we said, we need one of those top 2 picks. And knowing Washington and the history with them, I could see it happening, but this team is just so void of talent, especially on offense, that I don't think they'll come away with a win. But I think this will be one of those manageable games for the rest of the season where you'll say, okay, we're not getting blown out by 3 touchdowns. So that's it. It sucks. It definitely loser talk to even say that, but to even be within 10 points is a win for the Giants at this point down the stretch.
By the way, last week, I did say the Giants would lose. I said 49-6. So I had the points right. I just noticed that. You went 33 points. You were a little more optimistic. So, yeah. God. What? Give me a score on this one. What are you thinking?
Ugly.
Something silly, 12-6?
Yeah.
The NFL, I got to tell you, Sean, week to week, the NFL's there's not been a ton of scoring. And I feel like I've seen 21-17. I feel like that is like a pretty consistent score around the league every week.
Yeah, scoring's been down this year. I think the most in like 20 years. So it's definitely been a weird year in terms of that. But yeah, this is going to be an ugly score. Something that just doesn't make sense. I think Washington's offense is pretty good. And I think the Giants defense will be on the field for the majority. So I'd probably say, I could see like a 19-12. So the Giants cover. Weird score, but they end up losing. Nice. That's something weird like that's going to happen. So I like that actually. 19-12.
I like that too. Baltimore did beat Cincinnati 34-20 on Thursday Night Football. The big news there was that not only was there a Joe Burrow injury pregame, there was a Joe Burrow injury mid-game, and he's out for the season now. And anybody that's got Joe Burrow on your fantasy team, you're in trouble. You know that. And that team's done. Cincinnati's done. It's over.
Yeah. You can put a wrap on it, put a bow on it for them. Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback in this league, top 5 quarterback. So once you get something like that to the team, it's going to drive you down, especially the fact that they're at 5-5 right now. They play in the best division in the league. Getting that number 7 AFC seed is not going to be easy for any team. So I think they'll still be somewhat competitive in games because their defense is still pretty solid, and they have good skill players. But I just don't think Jake Browning is going to be the guy that will take you to that 7 seed in the AFC. So it sucks to see. I'm a big Joe Burrow fan. So yeah, it sucks for them, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they just call it a season, try and get a decent draft pick. It's done for them.
I've got Joe Mixon in my dynasty league, and he put up some serious points when Burrow went down, and I expect that to sort of be the case going forward. So
they're going to have to lean on him, especially if T. Higgins is still on.
All right, let's talk about the real games. Pittsburgh travels to Cleveland. It's a 1:00 game on CBS. Pittsburgh's offense is so bizarre. The fans are so miserable in Pittsburgh, even though this team wins. I don't understand it. There's this thing about Matt Canada being the worst offensive coordinator in the league. Cleveland also dealing with some issues. Maybe a positive for them almost. Deshaun Watson also done for the year, we just found out. Does Cleveland have enough at home to hold off Pittsburgh's oddly sputtering offense, which saw Deontay Johnson come back last week, and all that did was take all the targets away from Pickens. So, didn't help.
Yeah, this Steelers team is so odd. They've been outgained in every game, and they're still have a winning record. It doesn't make any sense at all. But I think that continues here this week, especially with Cleveland going with DTR, the rookie quarterback, who in his first start did not look good at all. And I don't think that's going to change, especially with guys like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith pressuring you all day. So, but Cleveland's defense will keep them in this game. Like you said, the Steelers' offense just has not found a rhythm at all this year. So I think it will be a pretty low-scoring game, but I think that Pittsburgh finds a way to win on the road. Probably like a 17-13, something like that. I think Cleveland's defense will keep them in because they're really good, but Pittsburgh is going to find a way again.
I like it. Yeah, I got Pittsburgh 16-10. That feels right. All right, Chicago at Detroit. This is the 1 o'clock game on Fox. Chicago's a disaster, has been for some time. You assume they're going to be moving off of Josh Fields as maybe soon as this next draft. Meanwhile, Detroit having this dream season. Dan Campbell, the right coach. Jared Goff's been the right quarterback. Everything, they've done some weird things at running back, and it's all worked out for Detroit somehow, some way, something I don't think I've ever uttered in my lifetime. But I think Detroit wins big here over Chicago. I'll go 31-12.
I'm with you. I think Lions blow them out. The Bears defense has been a little bit better lately, especially with the addition of Montez Sweat. But Justin Fields coming back, I think he'll probably be a little bit rusty. And even with that, the Bears offense is not good. So Lions, they'll beat up on another bad team. Go ahead and get another win. Trying to lock up that division pretty early in December. I think it's a blowout too. I'll probably say 31-14. I don't think Chicago's scoring a lot of points, and I think Lions will get a big win here in the division.
I like it. All right, Los Angeles goes to Green Bay, 1 o'clock game on Fox. Green Bay's been a disaster, another team that I think is really got to be questioning their quarterback situation. Jordan Love looked good pretty early on of the season, has not played great of late. Los Angeles, very happy with their quarterback, but this a guy who just week in and week out doesn't get it done enough that they win games. And, week in and week out, we blame their coach and their GM and the defense and it's everybody but Justin Herbert. I think this week, I feel like he puts up some good numbers. And he takes LA to a win at Lambeau. I will go 34-24 over Green Bay.
Well, obviously you're going to pick the Chargers when your favorite quarterback is on the team. That's your guy, Joe. Yeah, the Packers have been upsetting though. They're really young on offense, so it's kind of tough. I know Jordan Love's been there for a couple of years now, but his first full season starting, all their receivers are in their second year or younger, so they have a lot of youth, and their defense has not been, what they should be, especially with all the money that they put into that. But with that being said, the Chargers just find weird ways to lose these games. So I'm going to go with the Packers here at Lambeau. Only reason is, tough to play at Lambeau. It's been
fair.
It's been put out there, and then the Chargers, like I said, they have so much talent every year in, year out, but they just find ways to lose these games and upset their fan base. So I think it will be relatively close. I actually see a good amount of points in this game. I'll probably go 28-24. I think the Packers hold them off late, and I think they get another win under Jordan Love's belt.
I love it. All right. Las Vegas visits Miami, 1:00 game on CBS. Miami's rolling. Vegas is in another bad spot. I mean, every year it seems like these poor Raiders can't get it together. I'm going to go with Miami in this one. I'll say 48-13 feels about right. Miami's healthy. Jaden Waddle's back. Arcane comes back this week. I feel like Miami, Mozart, Tyreek Hill, there's so many weapons on this team. They'll get to the end zone quite often against LA or LV.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Antonio Pierce story was cool through 2 weeks. Nice to see an interim coach go in there, especially when he's a former Giant. But they're running into a buzzsaw this week. They got to play against Zach Wilson and Tommy DeVito, so tough to lose 2 of those games. But yeah, it ends this week. The Dolphins beat up on bad teams. They can't really beat the good teams, but they will beat up on the bad teams. So I agree. I think they blow them out here at home. I'll go 42-16. I think this one's going to get pretty ugly very quickly, especially like you said with Devon Achane coming back. That's just another element to this Miami offense that we saw when he was healthy. They're just almost impossible to guard with all that speed in the field. So Vegas isn't going to be able to keep up, and this one's going to get pretty ugly, I would say.
Yeah, their ability to break off big plays has been phenomenal all season. All right, Dallas goes to Carolina, 1:00 game on Fox. A game you'd like to see Carolina win. Doesn't seem very likely, not the way Dallas has been playing. Dak's looked great over the past few weeks, which I'm sure our boy Sander is absolutely loving and constantly reminds us about. That said, Dallas, I'll say, takes Carolina out here pretty hard, like a 35-14.
Yeah, this one's another stinker. Panthers, they might move off of Frank Reich after 1 year. This offense has not looked good. He gave up play calling, then he took it back. So that's usually a sign that it's probably going to be coming to an end pretty soon. Bryce Young has not looked great. He doesn't really have anyone to throw to, and their line has not been good. And Dallas's defense is just going to take advantage of them, especially with that pass rush. It's not going to be pretty. This one, it's going to be another blowout. I'll say Dallas 42 to Carolina 10, maybe. They might get to double digits. It'll be tough, though.
That feels right. Tennessee travels to Jacksonville, 1:00 game on CBS. Jacksonville's been an odd team. Trevor Lawrence at times has looked great this year. Earlier in the year, looked like he was kind of putting it all together. Hasn't been too great of late. Tennessee, unfortunately, can't really seem to get things going. I know people are excited about Will Levi, but I feel like Jacksonville here at home takes this one 20-13.
Yeah, I feel like AFC South games are always close. It doesn't matter how good or bad our team is. I feel like they usually play each other pretty tough. And yeah, like you said, Will Levis came out blazing in that first start, throwing for 4 touchdowns. Kind of has regressed since then. And this Jaguars defense has been playing, pretty well all year long. A lot of people thought that it would be the offense carrying this team, but they've been fine. But I think the defense has, outperformed their expectations. And I think after getting the crap kicked out of them by the Niners, I think Jacksonville will bounce back. But I do think it'll be relatively close. I'd probably say 23-13. I say Jacksonville probably pulls away late in the fourth quarter.
All right, I like it. Arizona at Houston, 1:00 game. Kyler Murray came back last week, pulled out a victory. You got to feel good for him. Meanwhile, C.J. Stroud continues to be such an impressive story out of Houston. Carolina's got to maybe be thinking, was our scouting department right on this? Maybe time will bear things out. But this kid's been off to maybe the third best start of a rookie quarterback in history. I like where Houston's at. I think they're in a good position here at home. I think this will be a fun game. I think they pull it out. I'm going to go 31-26.
I like it. Yeah, if you were to look at this game, before the season, you would say, "Oh God, nobody wants to watch this." But now it's probably one of the better games of the week, especially with Kyler Murray coming back, looking really good last week. The Texans have probably been the biggest surprise so far this season, especially with the way CJ Stroud has been playing. That defense has also been playing pretty well too. So I think this is a pretty close game. I think Kyler Murray keeps them in it, but I do think that CJ Stroud, just his clutch ability, we saw it 2 weeks ago against the Bucs, not getting phased at all, even as being a rookie. I think he's going to win this game late. So I expect a lot of points out of this one too. I'll go ahead and say 37-34. I think that Texans get a late field goal, but I expect a lot of points out of this one. Should be a fun watch.
Sean, we both mentioned C.J. Stroud. You really talked about their defense. Will Anderson, by the way, the number 3 pick, who they grabbed right after they got C.J. Stroud's been phenomenal this year too. You look at some of the teams that have had a couple of first-round picks, haven't necessarily picked all the right people. The Giants a couple of years ago had that same situation. This team in 2 picks basically turned their offense and defense like to another level. You don't see that a lot.
Definitely not, and it's definitely on this front office that they've done a great job. Scouting department too. It looked like, it was a disaster after the Deshaun Watson situation, but they got a lot of assets back for him. And they were never going to win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson. So to be able to get those many assets back, they didn't have to trade up this year to go get CJ Stroud because Bryce Young got taken first. And then they make that move for Will Anderson. And then DeMeco Ryans he has to be one of the favorites for Coach of the Year right now, to be able to turn this franchise, who over the last 2 or 3 years has been at the very bottom of the NFL, to make this turnaround is super impressive. And I don't think this is just a fluke either. I think that they're going to be here for a while, especially with CJ Stroud. I'm sure that they have a lot of cap money. They don't have a lot of players that are, taking up a lot of money. So I think they could definitely win with CJ Stroud on his rookie contract. And they might have a chance to make the playoffs this year. I'm pretty sure right now they're the 7th seed, and the way that this team's been playing, it wouldn't shock me at all if they sneak their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, been a pretty exciting season so far, and a rejuvenation in Houston. Now, Tampa Bay goes to San Francisco, 4:00 game on Fox. Tampa is oddly competitive week in and week out. Baker Mayfield's, I think, fighting for his career at this point. San Francisco got things kind of back on track. Deebo Samuel came back. Purdy played a lot better. When Purdy's got all the weapons, he's pretty good. When he's got some guys banged up, not so good. Defense, obviously, still top caliber. I think San Francisco is going to struggle in this one, as they tend to. I do think they'll pull it out late. I'm going to say San Francisco 21, Tampa Bay 18.
All right. I think that San Fran's going to carry the momentum that they had last week in that win against the Jags, and just carried over to this game against the Bucs. I don't think the Bucs are really that good. They have been somewhat competitive. I'll give them that. Their defense still has some core players from that Super Bowl run a couple years ago, but Baker's not the guy. Like you said, he's definitely battling for keeping that starting job in the NFL. I think he could be a backup for a couple more years after this, but I think at this point it's proven that his NFL career is not going too much longer. But yeah, once you have Trent Williams back for the Niners, the best left tackle in the league, Deebo Samuel, one of the most versatile pieces in the league on offense, it's a whole different offense, and you can see that. Like you said, Brock Purdy looks like a different quarterback. So I just don't think the Bucs are that good. I think the Niners at full health are definitely in that elite tier in the NFL. So, and especially at home, I think they win this one big. I'll probably say 31-16 sounds right to me. Something like that.
I could see that. Yeah. The Jets go to Buffalo, 4:25 on CBS. The Jets, I've watched so many Jets games this year for no reason. I don't know why I do it to myself. Maybe I just want to see if I could watch worse football than the Giants. That defense is so good. When he's throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson, good things tend to happen. It's a matter of getting it to him. Shockingly, they cut Michael Carter this week after a player-only meeting. I've seen Michael Carter in big situations. He's a great dump guy. He's got good hands. He can make some things happen. It was shocking to see them move off of him, but they are pretty loaded at that running back spot. It would be nice to see Dalvin Cook get some freaking carries. Meanwhile, Buffalo, goodness gracious, just lost a terrible game to Denver. We're not quite sure what's going on with Buffalo. I thought last year when they blew it, I said the dynasty was over. And at 5-5, man, it seems more and more, Shawnee, like that window may have really shut on Buffalo. There's so many good teams right now in the AFC, and they're not playing well. It's not to say they can't turn it around. I do think they'll win this game. I think it'll be a very competitive game. I think, unfortunately, the Jets probably won't be able to score enough points. It's why I'm going to take I'm going to take the Bills, mind you, 19-13 in this game.
You're giving the Jets 13 points?
I am. The defense will score.
Yeah, probably a scooping score for Quinn Williams. That's the only chance. But I mean, about it. You said it. It's just been a disaster for the Bills this year. It does look like that window has closed. And Josh Allen, obviously, still very young, but just these turnovers are killing this team. That's pretty much the single-handedly the reason they lost on Monday night to the Broncos, and they still had a chance to win at the end. But the turnovers are killing them. The defense has, lost a lot of players to injuries, and it just does not look pretty. They're sitting outside looking in right now in the playoff picture. So, and the Jets always have had Josh Allen's number. We saw in week 1, even when Aaron Rodgers went down, Josh Allen couldn't, take advantage of that, couldn't win that game. And I feel nasty doing this. I picked the Jets to win last week too, and they lost to the Raiders. But one of these times, it's got to be right. And they do have Buffalo's number. So I don't feel great doing it, but I'm going to go with the Jets. I think the Buffalo Bills are tumbling right now. I think that they're, scrambling for answers, especially after firing their offensive coordinator. And I just don't think it gets anywhere better here. So I think the Jets defense comes out to play, has a hell of a game. And I think that the Jets will win 13-7. This is going to be an ugly one. And I think the Jets get another W on the board.
This would be a disastrous loss for Buffalo, especially you mentioned they lost the opening game, a game they inexcusable that the Jets were even in that one, and they won it on a late punt return, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll see. I like that though. You never know. This NFL season has been so weird. Seattle and LA playing 4:25. That's a CBS game. I'm confused because I thought LA was playing Green Bay. Is this the Rams? This is the Rams. That's why. Okay.
Too many LA teams.
I forget. I'm sorry. Excuse my brain fart there. Yeah, I forgot there are 2 LA teams. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. All right. The Rams have been playing a lot better since Cooper Kupp came back. Seattle is not that great. They're a good team. They do find ways to I'm going to just do it. I'm going to just say the Rams, I think, win this game. I'm going to go 24-19.
Yeah, you can tell by the way you started that you wanted to do it, and I'm glad you did.
Yeah, but thank you.
I mean, the Rams beat them in week 1 in Seattle, which was pretty shocking. And I agree with your assessment on Seattle. I think that they're a good team, but I don't think they're a great team. So I think that they go into LA this week and win the game. I think that Geno Smith has looked pretty good the last couple of weeks. That this receiving core is one of the best in the league, and this defense does enough to keep him in games. And it's Matthew Stafford's first game back from injury. I don't know how great he'll look, especially him being a lot older now, coming off injury. So I think it'll be a pretty competitive game, but I think that the Seahawks are going to pull this one out. I'd probably say 28-20. I think it'll be relatively close, but I think Seattle is just better than LA, and they'll get this win on the road.
All right, good. Minnesota and Denver. Man, Minnesota, it looked like it was all over for these guys. And then Joshua Dobbs showed up. Meanwhile, Denver got off to a bad start after a bad season. Everybody kind of thought they were done. Huge win last week. I'm going to take Minnesota, though. I just feel like Minnesota's clicking on all the right cylinders. I think they win this one 31-24 at Denver.
I like that. I think the Josh Dobbs magic is going to keep rolling into this one. Like you said, Minnesota just finds ways to reel off these wins. And what if they won five or six in a row now? It's been super impressive. And you thought after Kirk Cousins went down, especially with Justin Jefferson being out with injury, you thought it was done for the season. But they found ways to win these games. And Denver too has looked pretty impressive the last couple of weeks. Russell Wilson has found himself kind of get in a groove. This defense has looked a lot better. But I'm going to go with you with this in this one. I think Minnesota gets this win on the road. I think it'll be pretty close. I'll probably say 24-23. I think it's a 1-point game. And this is another one. If you were to look at this game a couple weeks ago, you're like, oh, God, they got to flex this one out of Sunday night. But now this might be one of the better games of the week. And I think it will be pretty entertaining. But Josh Dobbs and his alopecia is going to keep it going in Denver.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that game. The Monday night game very well could be Super Bowl preview. The Kelsey brothers currently have the #1 song on iTunes, thanks to Taylor Swift, who, Sean, before we get into the game,
let's talk about more.
I think it's fair to say at this point that Taylor Swift has put a guy who was on the map, and his brother too. Again, pretty well-known guys, very successful football players, beloved in the cities that they play in. A great story, the whole thing with their mom last year, the Super Bowl. These two guys are blowing up in a huge way because of Taylor Swift.
Yeah, these two no-names, if it weren't for Taylor Swift, who would know about these guys? You know what I mean? But
Sean, until that song went to #1, that's what I had to say. Like, all right, Taylor Swift, they got a song #1 on the iTunes charts. That's the Taylor Swift effect. Gotta be.
Their podcast is at the top of the charts too right now. It's that Taylor Swift bump, and I know that Roger Goodell is loving all those Swifties, bringing in extra money, extra revenue for him, watching these games that otherwise they would have no chance of watching. So yeah, it's Taylor Swift. Thank you for. I should say thank you. Roger Goodell will be saying thank you because he's brought in all this extra money, which we know old Roger loves. And yeah, Taylor Swift. What would football be without Taylor Swift? Sometimes you got to ask the important questions here. Look what she's done for this beautiful game that we love.
I feel like this year's Super Bowl, I feel like people are going to get together. They're going to throw parties. It's going to be wild. Imagine that. Like, make a big day of the Super Bowl. Lots of people will tune in. Record numbers even.
Yeah. I mean, it's you said it. I mean, the Super Bowl usually, not an eventful day, not a lot of parties going on, not a lot of people tuning in. But now that Taylor Swift's around, you better watch out for these TV
party
ratings.
Time.
They're going to be the best of all time.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this game. Like I said, this was last year's Super Bowl. This very well could be this year's Super Bowl. I've been saying to you when you and I have disagreed on this about how good Kansas City's defense is, and I told you last week. I forget. Not DJ Metcalf, not the player. Who's the broadcaster? Metcalf, Eric Metcalf, Myron Metcalf. Thank you. Yeah, Myron Metcalf said, and I thought really hit it. He said their defense isn't great. It's an opportunistic scoring defense. They've come up with big plays. You don't think they're great, but they play pretty great in big moments. And I think that's really, the difference in what you and I are trying to get at with this team. I don't think this defense is great. It gets the job done, and it finds a way to come up big in big spots. And to me, that's what a championship caliber defense does when your offense is really great. That said, their offense isn't great. I think Philadelphia's offense is great. I think Jalen Hurts he's great. That's a great quarterback right there. That's your dual threat guy. That's what all these guys are aspiring to be right now. I think he's at the top of his game. I'm going to take Philadelphia to win this game in Kansas City. It's going to be a late field goal, 26-23 win for the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right. Yeah, I wish Zay was here to talk about the Eagles. I know he loves to talk about how fraudulent they are at 8-1 and the best record in the NFL. But yeah, I mean, I still think this defense. I get what you're saying that they're opportunistic, but they just have playmakers everywhere. Their secondary has been phenomenal. They get after the passer with Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, who's really come into his own this year. And I think that they're going to find a way to pull this one out. I know the Chiefs' offense does not look great, but they do have the best player in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. Even if his receivers are dropping the ball a lot or they're not getting a lot of separation, Patrick Mahomes is going to find a way because he is, like I said, not just the best quarterback in the league. He's the best player in this league. But I think this is going to be a classic. It's the best game of the week. It's going to be a really fun one on Monday night. Obviously, the Super Bowl rematch, the two brothers, Taylor Swift, you name it. It's going to be a good one. But I do think the Chiefs pull it out. I think it is going to be a very close game. I'd probably say 23-20. I agree with you that it's a field goal game, but Arrowhead, it is not silent in that stadium.
Tough place to play.
Yeah, and I know Philly's used to crazy fans as well, but I think Arrowhead is a different animal, and I think Patrick Mahomes finds a way in this game to win, and I think the Chiefs defense does enough to give the Eagles their second loss on the season.
Sean, I don't know if you factored this in. There was some controversy this week that came out. Apparently, some years ago, Brittany Mahomes sent out some mean tweets about Taylor Swift. And we know Taylor Swift does not let things go, generally speaking. No. Could this cause some friction between Mahomes and Kelsey? Could this become an issue for this team, or can they overcome this somehow? Could Taylor Swift bring this team down, or does she smile through it and help this team win a Super Bowl?
I'm glad you're asking the great questions here, Joe. It's great journalism by you, bringing these tweets to the forefront.
This has to be addressed.
Yeah, I don't know how those tweets slipped under my thumb. I thought I was on top of my Brittany Mahomes drama here, but I guess not. But I think something that's stronger than the Swifties is Andy Reid and keeping this locker room together. Big Red. I think that that'd be a pretty good battle. Andy Reid going up against the Swifties. If anything ever happened, if Kelsey and Mahomes had a beef, I think Andy Reid would be able to put his foot down and get them right back on the right track. So it's a lot of drama going on with Kansas City. Taylor Swift. You don't know with that one. You just don't know what's going to happen next. So I think the Chiefs will be fine, but it's something to keep in mind.
If they lose, we'll have to open this debate back up and figure out just how much that might have had to do with this.
If they lose, just run this clip back and post it all over the socials. We had it first.
It'll go viral. It'll totally go viral. All right, that is going to do it for this week's show. Make sure you give us a follow. We are on all the social media apps. You can also download the audio version of this podcast, iTunes, Spotify. We're on whatever platform you're on. We're on all of them. Make sure you subscribe YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, or now known as X. Nice job getting another spaceship blown up, by the way. And clevercrestmedia.com/join about the G-Men to get all the latest on the New York Football Giants. Unfortunately, Zay has been partying with his mother for days now, it seems like.
They're on a bender.
So big shout out to Mama Groves. We'll be back here next week. Zay will be here as well. From a boy, Sean Scanlon, I'm Joe McGuire. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Jawing About the G-Men.